friends, my name is Mackenzie, also known as Emtothethird on Instagram, Ravelry, and YouTube, and I'm coming to you from Boston, Massachusetts, and this is episode 19 of the Emtothethird Knitting Podcast. So I've decided that my goal for this year is to get to 1,000 subscribers by 2021. So if you are a watcher, and especially if you've watched a few times and if you like what you see, please hit that subscribe button. It helps me out a ton. And yeah, on to the show. So the last time I talked to you, which I think was 2 weeks ago, we were like collectively as a country and continent finishing up like 2 weeks, I think, of quarantining and social distancing. And now we're entering week 5, or at least I'm entering week 5. And yeah, I was a little like in the dumps when I talked to you last, and I'm feeling a little better. I definitely cut down on my news consumption, which I've been hearing a lot of other people are doing. Yeah, and when I do tune into the news, I've been finding it helpful to go to the late night hosts who at least have like some humor like sprinkled about, because man, it's bleak. And you know, as a sewer, as I know probably a lot of you are experiencing, I'm gonna stop touching my face too. Not necessarily because they're not clean, but because I'm breaking out, I think because of stress, and because I'm touching my face. So yeah, I think there's like been some pressure put on to like makers to be making face masks, especially since last Saturday, I believe it was. Man, my days and weeks are all a little jumbled, as I am sure you can relate to. You know, the CDC started saying that they're recommending everyone to wear even just cloth masks or handkerchiefs outside, mostly because there are so many people who are asymptomatic, and it helps prevent the spread. So we should all be walking around assuming that we are asymptomatic carriers. So I do have some like heavy duty dust masks that are actually like the ones that everyone is coveting, all the healthcare workers. Not even coveting, that's not the right word, they need and they don't have access to. And I have those for dyeing, but they're not, like, there's so few of them, it wouldn't really make a difference if I were to spread them out. So like Kay and I wore those a couple of times, but they are really uncomfortable, and you know, we don't need that level of protection. You know, so anyway, I really I didn't have any interest in making masks. I think like many other people are very, very frustrated and hurt and pissed off at our government for not intervening and getting healthcare workers the personal protective equipment that they need. And yeah, I mean, right, there's so much to go there. There's like labor that is being dropped onto the shoulders of mostly women in ways that are seen as most of the time not essential or not very skilled, and now a lot of people's lives are depending on it, and it's just all very complicated, very frustrating. So all that to say, I was not planning on making face masks. But since everything has changed and blah, 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 I did make one for Kay and one for myself that we can wear on our, if once a week grocery trips. We've been doing closer to 10 days. And then we can wash them and then use them next time. So I really just used fabric that I had in my stash and like supplies that I had. So Made this one with ties for Kay. Initially I was making them one with elastic for them to put over their ears, but their head is much smaller than mine, and so it didn't fit. So this one ended up being Kay's, and we just like tie it around their head when we like go out to walk the dog. And then this one is mine. It has little shirts on it. I had to use cute fabric because, man, it sucks. So, yeah, like that. I haven't even worn mine out yet, so. Yeah, you know, trust me, I didn't want to be well, I don't want to be wearing them, but I also don't really want to be making them. So I'm just, you know, yeah, it is what it is. So anyway, I just wanted to get that out of the way because I wanted to obviously address the elephant in the room, which is that this pandemic is still going on and it's affecting all of us. And at the same time, you're coming here for an escape, and I'm talking about knitting and spinning as an escape, and so now I'm going to lead into that and try not that I'm not going to bring it up, but just, you know, talk about other stuff. So that's out of the way. So I've got some FOs and some nearly FOs that I'm going to share with you first, and then I'm going to talk about whips. There's some new ones, some long-standing ones that I've made some progress on, and then I usually don't do this. I've talked about this before, that I generally don't talk about acquisitions, but we're in a little bit of a funny time, and I did make some purchases to support some spinning fiber dyers, and I just thought I would share those with you because I think they're unique, and that's something that I've been doing a lot lately. So, okay, so I did show you this last week, but I added buttons, and now it's so cute. This is the baby surprise jacket by Elizabeth Zimmerman. So it's been folded up on my desk, so it's a little funky, and I haven't blocked it, which I do want to do before I like stash it away, but it's so cute. Yeah, and you can go to last week's video, which I will link up here if you want to know more about this little guy and yarn and whatnot. But yeah, it's very, very cute. So that's one, and then the other baby, oops. And then the other thing I knit was out of the yarn that I showed you that I had spun last week, which if you already clicked that link to look at the baby surprise jacket, click it again because there's more info. So I spun some yarn out of fiber from Hello Yarn, Adrian, and then I talked about how Adrian has been making bread, and I linked that down below and blah 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 blah. So I had spun that. It was my first time doing a chain ply, and I am basically obsessed. I love it a lot. And looking at this finished object, look how cute it is. I know. And those are the buttons I chose, which was a set that I had got from a local fabric store. So that's just like the cutest thing. The yarn was pretty thick, which I wasn't expecting. There's definitely some left over, so maybe I'll do, see how many wraps per inch it is. Okay, just calculated how many wraps per inch and figuring out how much that is. So it is like about a worsted, which is kind of what I expected, but it's a very dense worsted. Let's see if we can do the podcast thing. Also, my hands are so sad because of all the hand washing. No. Yeah, so what I am really happy about is it's very consistent. It's not overspun. See how it just kind of hangs Like I felt like, yeah, I just felt like I did, like, I was just like really happy with the amount of spin that I added during plying and how I spun the singles. So it all turned out. So I have like a little bit left. Could add it to like a little project, but I'm very happy that I got something out of it. I think it's super cute. For those of you that might be new, I don't have a baby. I'm not pregnant. But I just really like making baby things, and a bunch of my friends are starting to have kids, so either it'll go in a stash and I'll keep it until maybe one day I have a baby, or it'll go to friends. So not worried about it, just enjoying the process, because right now we all need a little bit of joy. The other FO that I have is spinning and not knitting, which are these 3 skeins. So I did post about them very briefly on Instagram, but I wanted to just go a little bit more in depth about them here. So it's really, I mean, they're really great because they have a lot of like subtle variations, and you can see that. And there's also some sparkle, like some stellina in it. So I had a lot of fun spinning it. And so so it was a bat from Mork Fiber Company. She makes custom bats and she lives in LA, and the yarn store that is closest to my grandma in LA is the Altered Stitch. It's a great local yarn store. When I lived with my grandma very briefly before moving to Boston, I went to a few stitch nights there. Yeah, they're just like really awesome. They've had some hardships, so I really like stopping in there when I'm home visiting family and picking up a couple skeins. And so this bat, I actually saw it when I was making my purple crochet blanket, and I thought that I could spin it for that blanket. Obviously I finished that well before I got to this, but yeah, this was a really fun project. I've not spun with bats a whole lot, and definitely not one of this size. It was about 4.5 ounces, and it's sort of like rolled up. And I did a little bit of prep, which was tearing off pieces and strips and then pre-drafting it a little bit. Because it was a bat, the way that it was set up, because all the fibers were kind of jumbled together, it wasn't 100% a worsted spun yarn. So there was like some variation in like the fiber direction that it was laying, and there were also there was no info about the fiber content. It was mostly a pretty short staple length wool, so I'm assuming that it was merino. And then there were chunks of silk. There were chunks of possibly like some locks, maybe of mohair, but also it could be like BFL. Like a sheep with a longer staple length, and they were almost like felted pieces that were dyed individually, which is where a lot of the other colors in the skein kind of come from. So it was very fun to spin, because even though it's like kind of, it's all cohesive and it all looks, you know, very similar, but there is some variation that made it a lot of fun and kept me going. So I spun all of those into singles, which were very thin, I think because of short staple length mixed with like silk. And then I chain plied them together as well, so they're like a 3-ply when all is said and done. And they're, man, now I'm like blanking on how many wraps per inch, but they were a fingering weight. Maybe 18? I'm not sure. I don't remember like off the top of my head what fingering weight is, but they were definitely like staunchly in the fingering weight category. And it feels a lot airier and lighter than the other chain ply that I did. And I do wish the skeins were bigger, just because that would have been convenient as I was going through plying them, but my bobbin just like, that was all it could handle. So I don't know if I've talked about my spinning wheel on here before, but I do have an Ashford Traveler that I bought used. It was one of the first fiber things that Kay like joined me to go get. When we picked it up, the woman who sold it to me was like, oh yeah, now I spin yarn and I don't have time to knit. And Kay on the way home was like, why would you spin yarn if then you don't have time to knit? And so I started telling them a little bit about the fiber community. It's funny to have someone so outside of it and to be like, oh yeah, like this is like a pretty common thing that people say. Anyway, yeah, and I basically spun kind of like I normally do. Like, I have a drive band, I don't use Scotch tension. I don't know a whole lot about spinning, but I know a little bit, so I increased the tension on the drive band for when I was plying so that I could get more twist to make sure that it was really a secure yarn. I'm very happy. Also doesn't feel overspun. I think the last skein that I did got a little overspun. I did like in the morning after the other two, but I also haven't washed them yet, so I think when I do that it might help, but it is definitely tighter spun than the other ones. Yeah, so those are, I'm excited to knit with them. I might just make another baby surprise jacket. I think that knitting baby stuff with hand spun makes a lot of sense to me, not in terms of durability or anything like that, but because they're small projects, so I'm less likely to run out of yardage. I did kind of calculate yardage, but I'm not sure how accurate it was because I kind of did it off of weight. I forgot to count how many strands were on my Nitty Naughty before like scanning them up. So I think I have like just under 350 yards. I think that's where I ended up, which is not bad. Now I'm really doubting myself, but anyway, I digress. Okay, now I want to tell you a little bit about some whips that I have been working on, some which you are familiar with and some that you have not seen yet. So the first one is my Juniper sweater by Sunflower Knits, and that's made some significant progress. In fact, I think I'm almost done with it. So I've talked about this again before, but I changed the neck shaping quite a lot, and I just finished the ribbing because I had done the sleeve. One sleeve is done, and it is a drop shoulder cardigan, sweater, pullover, and when I was trying it on just for sleeve length, the neckline was really gaping a lot, and I didn't just wing it, I did kind of calculate it, so I was like, oh, maybe it's not going to cinch up as much as I was expecting the ribbing to cinch. So I decided to do the ribbing before I did the second sleeve, because if I had to take it out, I'd rather do it now than with both of the sleeves done. So I did that, but I'm happy to say that it did basically exactly what I thought it would. And I think even at this point I might block it before doing the last sleeve. Just want to make sure everything is looking good. But so this is the front. It's reverse stockinette with this line of like knit stitches down the front, and then the back is this really nice lace pattern. There's a split hem. It's knit in pieces and then seamed together and then picked up for the neckline and the sleeve. So I'm gonna pop it on and just show you the way the neckline is fitting. Yeah, so you can definitely see it's kind of pulling that way a little bit just because the sleeve is on that side. So it'll probably sit more like that. And see, it's a little bunched up. I think blocking will help that a lot. The other thing is that there are 2 stitches on either side of the flat pieces, and that's what I use to like seam it together and pick up this. But because it's worsted weight, it's 2 stitches, it kind of adds a lot of bulk at the seam. So you can see here. And again, I think blocking will help that, but and I know that having 2 stitches helps with being able to seam, and I had a very pleasurable mattress stitch session, but right now I'm like, ooh, it's really bulky, and here also it's pretty bulky. So I'm very excited to get this sleeve done, so hopefully, I mean, I have basically no doubt that by the next time I record this will be done, and maybe I'll be wearing my finished blocked object just in time for the weather to warm up, because that's what's happening lately. Yeah, so you can see on this side like that, the 2 stitch like selvage. So anyway, yeah, I'm very excited to block it because right now I'm a little like, meh, but hopefully it will feel a lot better. But I am excited about it. The fit is really nice. I'm really glad I decided to add 2 inches to the front piece, because I think it like just sits really well. It's a little short in the front, which is just like typical for what happens to me because I have more body on the front half of myself, so it tends to like get caught on my bust and sit up. But I don't think it'll be a problem because I can wear it over jumpsuits and with all my high-waisted pants and skirts, so not too worried, but we'll see. I am definitely excited to try it on, take some pictures, and yeah, kind of like be done with it. I feel like I've had a couple projects on the needles, and like big projects, and I haven't moved on them. And I also have, I mentioned this in the last episode, a preview knit for Brooklyn Tweed. The yarn is here. I've wound up a skein and I haven't started it, so I really need to get on that. Okay, so the last whip that I have, I talked about in the last episode, but I hadn't cast it on, which was a sock out of a skein of Farmer's Daughter fibers and some leftover yarn. And so I started that. It looks so scrunched up because it's all 2x2 rib, but it's pretty bulky. So I cast on 64 and did 1x1 rib, and then I switched to 2x2 rib. I'm not sure if I love that. I might in the future just do 2x2 and then just switch colors. And then I decided to do an afterthought, or not an afterthought, fish lips kiss heel on there. And then the top is going to continue down in the 2x2 rib, and the bottom is in just stockinette. So kind of like just very simple socks. I do really like the colorway. You know, I was sort of like imagining them for myself, but I think it might be a nice Christmas gift to basically knit maybe like 4 pairs of socks to give to my sister, because I know she wears them. She is just getting into roller skating and I think it would be fun to kind of use some of the funkier colors that I have and knit her some like longer socks so that they can stick up out of the roller skates. Yeah, and she like has been texting me about how she's taking care of the ones that I gave her for Christmas. So I'm like, all right, I think you might be knit worthy, sister. She also does wear the sweater that I knit for her. A couple years ago, I knit her an Andrea Mowry pattern. I'll put a picture here because she looks so cute, and she wears it a lot from what I understand. So when I see her, like when she came to visit for Christmas, she was wearing it, and she was like, I don't know how to clean it properly. So, and I did gift her with wool wash, and we had a discussion about it, but she was just like, I just want to make sure that I don't ruin it. So yeah, I think she's proven herself to be knit worthy. So maybe she'll get a bunch of socks for Christmas. My whole family is very knit worthy, by the way, but yeah, it's kind of a nice thing that I can do for her. Okay, so that's basically whips. I didn't talk about my cotton grass jumper again because I haven't touched it, but I'll be pulling it out in a second because I want to talk about some of the things that I purchased. I did mention, let me talk about the pandemic again for like 5 seconds. I did talk about last week that I feel very grateful that I am in truly like a best case scenario, and I know that is not true for a lot of people. And it's very, like, I mean, 6 months ago, this would have been a completely different story for me and Kay. So I'm just like really counting my blessings, trying to give back to the community in little ways that I can. And I have money that I can spend because we're not going out and doing anything. So I've been supporting local artists and selfishly getting stuff back because, yeah, I can buy some supplies to put some money into their businesses. So I'm going to briefly lift the not buying shit, not talking about the shit that I buy. Maybe that's a better way to say it. On my channel, just so I can highlight some small businesses and encourage you maybe to go pick up something if you are also fortunate like I am to have some extra spending money in this like very chaotic time. And if not, they're like, please, I mean, I just like hope everyone can make it through this unscathed as much as possible. And yeah, that's like kind of all I can say. So that being said, here's some things that I bought. Because I spun up that fiber, I went through my like very minuscule fiber stash, and I have like a very mini bat, and I have some roving, and you know, they weren't, I just like am really feeling inspired by color, and they are all natural sheepy colors. And so I was just like, So I was like, let me go see what some people that I love their fiber, what they have in their shops right now, and I'll make a couple orders. And they're all local to me, so they came pretty quick, even though there are fairly significant postal service delays at the moment. Also, I want to say our mailman is like such a sweetheart. He's always like stopping by to chat, and obviously now we can't really. But whenever he rings the doorbell, Maple goes batshit. And, you know, I go out and he just always has a milk bone because he's prepared for her, and just hands her a milk bone and she takes it and goes inside. And then we can chat for a little bit. And so since, obviously, in this time of social distancing, he doesn't get to stay at a Maple, we can't really chat and just like say hi. So he's been leaving our packages at the door with like a little milk bone on top, and then when I come get it, he like waves from down the steps, and it's just like very sweet. So like serious shout out to the postal workers who are still going. Yeah, okay, so the first thing I got is from Hello Yarn, which is Adrienne, who I talked about last week, because she sent me some sourdough starter like well over a year ago, or maybe a year ago. Yeah, I think it was well over a year ago. And that's the fiber that I knit the little baby cardigan out of. So I went on to see what she had on her website, and I found this like beautiful, very my color palette. I'm not sure like when I turned into a purple person, but it's happening, and I'm just here for it. So yeah, that's like super pretty. I love this like little bit of teal. So I got 2 of these, which is going to be 8 ounces in total. And the reason I did that was because I keep having this very small amount of yarn done that I have hand spun. And so I wanted to have a little bit more, so that'll be over 200 grams. 4 ounces is 28 grams, so that is like over 200 grams. It's fine. So yeah, that'll give me like a significant amount of yarn, hopefully, to make myself something fun. And I'll also be pre-drafting this a little bit more, because I think that might be why I got such a thick yarn. I'm not even sure. I'm not sure if it was also Falkland Merino that I spun out of last time, because I don't have the bag anymore. I could go check my order. I'm not sure what it was. Oh, wait. No, the last one was out of Rambouillet, and then this is Falkland Merino. So I'll see, yeah, I'll keep you updated on the spinning process of this, but I'm hoping to get thinner singles and therefore a thinner yarn to knit with, because I just don't really like knitting with thick yarn. So that's one. Also from Adrian, I got a little wraps per inch tool. Look how cute it is. A little laser cut dog. There we go. Okay. Look how cute it is. So it's a wraps per inch tool. It comes with a little like chain. So I'm gonna secure this onto my spinning wheel. And then, oh, again, sorry for the crinkling. These are, so look at her packaging. So cute. And these are also some laser cut buttons. She posted these a while ago and I forgot about them. They're little like faces. So they're a bunch of like different faces. Maybe I'll do a different view of these and insert it so that you can see it and I can stop crinkling. I just like love her color sense, and yeah, I was like happy to buy a few bundles of fiber to keep me occupied and have fun with. And then the last fiber that I bought is from Loop, and they are the company that also makes the yin and yang skeins, and I talked about how I feel about that name and about that sweater in this episode. And so she started out, I can't remember her name off the top of my head. I'm sure if you've been to Rhinebeck, you've seen her. I've seen her at various other sheep and wool shows in the area. I believe she's from New York. And so she's Loop Fiber Studios, and she started off doing fiber, so that's like what she was known for prior to doing this new marled yarn. So I always wanted a bat from her, but at Rhinebeck was always like held off for various reasons. But what's so cool about it, if I can open this bag, was difficult to open. So it's a center pull bump that is striped. So I thought this would be, I've never made like spun yarn that is thin enough that I felt like I wanted to make socks out of it. And this is 100% merino, which doesn't make it the best option for spinning socks. But again, with the orange and purple, I'm just really just leaning into it. So I'm again going to, God, chain plying is my new best friend. And yeah, so I'm going to spin it as thin as I can. And I've never spun anything quite like this. I'm definitely going to do some pre-drafting, but see how it just like pulls out from the middle. So cool. To try and get it as thin as I can while still having it be somewhat strong. And then hopefully chain plying it so that I can make some stripy-ish socks. But wow, yeah, isn't that fun? Oh my god, I'm so excited. Yeah, but merino's staple length is pretty short, so we'll see how it ends up. ends up going. Okay, the last thing I wanted to share is this bag. Okay, so I worked at a store in Boston, which I've talked about briefly, and my coworkers there are the thing that I definitely miss the most about it. Unfortunately, I had a falling out with the owner, so I don't go to the store anymore, but I still try and keep in contact with my coworkers. And Krista is someone who's been there for, I think, longer than I was, and she started doing these printed bags, and they're so cute. I have one that I keep in my project bag that's in the other room. That's like a little, like, tiny one for notions that has sheep printed on it. They're so cute. And Kay got it for me from, like, ordered it, picked it up at the store, brought it to me. It was very cute. And she posted this bag, and I was like, that one's mine. How much is it? Like, I'll take my money. She's been doing some shop updates, so I'll put all of these folks' links down below. And this is the one I bought. Again, I know purple, it's ginormous. It's like fits 4 of my face almost. And it's just so, it's like lined on the inside. She has her adorable fabric label in there. And then she also has this little Katrinkles, like, acrylic, let me see, ruler on the edge, which goes so well with this bag. And then this, it's just like so professional, beautiful. Yeah, isn't that gorgeous? So she just like hand painted this one, and this is wax canvas on the bottom, and it fits my whole sweater in there, which I love a big bag. And so I've been keeping all of my projects in individual bags on this like rolly IKEA cart. If I even just say that, I think you'll know what I'm talking about. And yeah, so it's all very like color cohesive at the moment, which again, purple and orange, it's been my theme for like, I don't know, 2 years. It's funny, but I'm just embracing it. I'm here, enjoying it. Okay, before I go and say goodbye and start editing this video, I did want to talk briefly about sourdough, because I know me and literally everyone else on earth is dabbling in sourdough, as there are flour and yeast shortages, and it's something that I've been working on for a while, so it's kind of fun to like see other people experimenting and, you know, making bread that they can eat on their own. So I just wanted to do a little show and tell of my starter. I have a lot of it right now because I'm going to bake bread and make some English muffins later, and I will film a little bit of that, and not necessarily a tutorial style, but just like a vlog kind of style. But see, all of these little bubbles are basically yeast farts that aerate the starter. And when I mixed the flour and water earlier and a little bit of the past starter, it was up to here where this rubber band is, and that's actually a trick that Adrienne taught me when she sent me that starter. And so I put it around there, and then that's how much like carbon dioxide has been created, so that it's basically raised the level all the way up here. So this is almost ready to use for something, but I think I'm gonna let it go for a little bit longer. It's not tight, because if you were to tighten this all the way, it would explode because of all the carbon dioxide. So just kind of keep it like not even finger tight, so that it can still aerate. And yeah, there you go. So again, I'm gonna include some clips of me baking some bread, making some English muffins, and then get to editing this video. Yeah, that was a lot, but it was fun to talk about. I hope it gave you a little bit of peace. Thanks for hanging out with me. Every Monday night during this pandemic, I've been hosting a weekly hangout session via Zoom through the podcast Slack channel. Slack is basically a place where you can have like text conversations very easily. It's a great community filled with a lot of really awesome people, and it's been really fun kind of getting to know people, actually seeing their faces and mannerisms as opposed to just typing, you know, little messages back and forth. So we've been doing that on Mondays at 6 p.m. Eastern. I might be putting it back a little bit later to start at 7 p.m. Eastern because that's easier for West Coast folks. So if you're interested in joining us, you can both follow me on Instagram, but I would strongly encourage you to join the Slack channel, which I'll also post a link for down below. So you can get to know the community of Emtothethird podcast viewers. And yeah, thank you for hanging out with me. I really hope that you and your family are well, and if you're not, you're taking care. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.